Hey guys, it's Brendan Maynard with Whitetails of New York. Today I want to talk about corn food plots with you guys and exactly how you can really bring it to the next level on your property and how you can increase the overall effectiveness, the holding power, the diversity that these corn food plots are going to be giving your deer. And if you guys have followed a lot of my information in the past, corn is not something I usually recommend on a lot of client properties, just for the fact that it takes a lot of ground in order to grow corn. On our property, we plant about 3.5 acres, and for our area, our local deer herd, our local habitat, that's a good amount. We have quite a bit left over at the end of the season. Now that's going to change tremendously wherever you are across the whitetails range, just depending on all of those factors. Again, the deer density, local habitat, is there corn in the neighborhood? Corn is definitely extremely attractive, especially during the month of November and into December. At that time of year, the deer are transitioning their nutritional intake and what their requirements are because of the weather changes. During the summer months, what they're really focusing in on is that crude protein for antler development. The does are really focusing on that crude protein for lactation and giving their fawns, high quality milk. And then this all transitions over as we go into starting into the colder months of November and December. They really are seeking out that high energy, high sugar content forages, and that's where a lot of times you see them start to transition over to your brassicas. A lot of people believe that's because the brassicas actually increase their sugar content at that point in time. It's really just not the case. It's been tested in the past. It's been proven that cold and frost don't really affect brassicas whatsoever in their sugar content. So, but deer do hit them. There's no doubt about it. Deer do hit them harder later in the year, especially when the snow comes on. And really what that's related to and what a theory is that really what they're doing is just targeting high energy, high sugar foods that is going to help them stay warm and help them survive those harsh winter months. So it's a great product to have. I mean, if you've ever hunted on corn and seen how deer react to it, they absolutely love it. It really attracts them in from long distances, and it's a great product to have on your property. But like I said, it's not browse tolerant. It takes a lot of ground and a lot of open ground in order to plant it. The majority of client properties I go to just don't have the means. They don't have the open ground. They don't have the resources to create that ground. And even if they did create it, I mean, you go out and clear a spot in the woods, it's going to take several years to build up those soils without sort of bringing in topsoil. It's going to take quite a long time to be able to grow a product like corn. Or you're going to be spending a lot of money and time and effort on inputs in order to grow corn in a situation like that. So again, it's a product that I don't recommend often, but what we're doing and how, if you're planting corn, how you can raise this to the next level. Or maybe it's a person that in the past I would not have recommended corn to. What we're doing and experimenting with on our property could change that for a lot of folks. It could help the small landowner, the person that does not have many acres to plant. It could help them have the opportunity to plant corn. So how are we going to do this? What do I mean by this? When you plant corn, you really need to make sure you have something off to the side of it that can complement it. But deer, just like humans, we can't live off of just one thing, nor do we want to. They don't want to eat the same old every single night. They want diversity, and that's why offering a nice buffet in your food plots is going to give you the most power to attract deer all season long, every single evening, day in and day out. So having, again, corn on one side of the plot, and then another blend, a food plot blend on the other half, and then being able to create that rotation. So why, first of all, yes, it is drawing a lot of nutrients out of the soil. Not only that, what you're also looking at is a lot of bare soil in between corn. That's another downside to it, as far as the detriment that it puts on the soil, not only because of what it's drawing out, but because the lack of ground cover here. And if you don't know anything about soil health, the more you learn about it, you realize that in order to have healthy soils, they must be covered. They must be covered with a growing plant. If they're not covered, you're going to be losing nutrients, whether they're vaporizing up and escaping up into the atmosphere, or they're leaching out and down through the soils. You lose nutrients if you do not have something growing on the soils. So again, it's just not something you can plant in the same spot year in and year out. So you've got to have that rotation. If you don't have, let's say, 6 acres, because I'm recommending at bare minimum, if you have higher deer densities than we do, which there's many places out there that do, 3 acres of corn probably isn't going to be enough. But let's just say you've got to have 3 acres of corn. Then let's say you want a rotation, so you need a 3 acres of another side of your food plot there that you can rotate back and forth. That's 6 acres. Not a lot of people have 6 acres, or the times, the time, the means, the resources in order to plant that 6 acres. So how are you going to be able to plant corn on your small food plot? Let's say you've got a 3 acre food plot, and that's all you've got. You don't have any time, any money to create more land. So what you're going to do is, instead of splitting that up again in an acre and a half of corn and then an acre and a half of another product, what now with this method, what you can do is put the 3 acres of corn on the entire food source, and then what you're going to do is interseed what would be on the other half of the plot directly into the corn. Now, what does this do? Obviously, at that point, you're increasing your overall amount of corn that you're planting. You've increased it about 3 acres, so it's that sufficient amount, but you're not sacrificing the diversity in your food source. You're still going to have those high quality greens below it. So what we did on our farm this year, and what I'm going to keep you guys updated on the process and how this grows, and what we expect to have happen, we'll show you, exactly what's happening here in the future. So what we did, we planted our corn about the middle of May, and we waited for V3 stage. So the corn got to V3 stage, and what that means, and I'll show you guys a close-up of it, is if you look here on the stem of this corn, you've got leaves obviously that come off, and certain ones have a little white collar on them. And at that point, those are the leaves that we're going to be counting. And when there's 3 leaves that have the collar, so you got one here on the left, then on the right, then on the left, this is at the V3 stage. And as you can see, the corn is about 6, 7, 8 inches long at this point in time. That is when we want to come in and put our interseed into this corn crop. If we were to do it too early, let's say we plant our interseed the same time that we planted this corn, it would just outcompete the corn. It would really, stun it right when the time that it matters most, right when it's germinating. That's why you need to wait in order for it to get to this stage, in order for it to get to that V3 stage. So the corn has a little heads up, a little head start on our interseed mix. Now you keep on hearing me say this interseed mix. Now what is it? So it's a blend of brassicas. It's got some purple top turnip in there, some rape, there's some chicory, crimson clover, cowpeas. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in this mix here. And why we chose those certain species, number one is because they're all small seeds, and when we're broadcasting directly on top of the soil in and throughout here, because we don't plan on drilling it into the corn, we plan on just broadcasting it. We chose a lot of small species so that they're going to be capable of just getting a little bit of rain on them, pushing them down into the soil just a little bit, covering them up, and have good germination rates. That's the one reason why we chose a lot of these products. Another reason, like the crimson clover and the cowpeas, they're legumes, and they obviously help fixate nitrogen out of the soil with the help of their little nodules that grow on their root system. So that also is going to be helping the corn. You're really getting that free nitrogen just having those plants in between those corn rows. So there's a ton of benefits to interseeding your corn. And again, it's going to help out a lot of landowners that maybe in the past didn't have this opportunity, just because, again, they didn't have enough land to plant it. Now, for those of you out there that have just, gone ahead and just planted it in the past and said, it'll be what it'll be, that's my favorite crop, that's what I want, that's great, because it is an awesome crop to have, and you will draw in every single deer in the neighborhood during that month of November. But again, if you want to influence your herd, if you want to actually have an impact and be able to define their movement and have consistent movement, you need to make sure you have a product on your property that's lasting throughout the entire season. So those of you out there that are very persistent and want to plant corn, and you don't have a lot of acreage to plant, I would strongly recommend that you consider interseeding your corn to really influence the deer throughout the entire season, and it's going to really help you on your property. So what are the other benefits of interseeding corn? A lot of agricultural people, what their focus is, and farmers, what their focus is to graze their cattle. So what they would do is, the reasoning they're interseeding is they would come in and harvest their corn off of here, and then they would let their cattle go loose in these fields and obviously eat that forage, the interseed mix. It's helping them cut down on costs, feeding costs throughout the winter months, and it really can help them tremendously. Not only that, Again, like we were talking about previously, corn is very difficult on the soil for a few different reasons, because of the nutritional requirements of it, but also because of the bare soil. When you think about when you plant corn, we planted our corn in the middle of May. This would be bare soil. If we weren't to interseed it, this would be bare soil in between these corn rows all the way until next spring, when we finally rotate this cornfield into our other crop and get our rotation. So that's a long time to have bare soils. You are losing a ton of nutrients. So that is really the main reason we're going about and interseeding our corn on our property. We really don't have to, because we're fortunate enough to where we have enough acreage to plant, open ground to plant, that we are capable of planting corn on one half of the plot, and the other product, the other blend on the other half of the plot, and be able to have that rotation and have enough food. But we are doing it mainly for the soil health, making sure that we have a product on our soil in between our corn rows, covering the soil up, and then actually something that's going to overwinter, like the crimson clover, something that's going to last throughout the winter and actually spring up or green up during spring green up. So that is the main reason we're doing it. We're doing it for the soil health. But for most of you out there, especially the ones that are planting small acreage, I would strongly recommend interseeding corn. Again, just stay tuned, follow the channel. We're going to keep you guys updated here on how this is progressing. Again, we just interseeded this about the V3 stage here. We planted this middle of May. It is now beginning of June. So about that 4-week window is what we're looking at, is when we interseeded. So we came in here, sprayed it like normal, interseeded it, and we have some good rain coming in the forecast, so this really should turn out pretty good. Another thing to point out is what we're planting with. We're planting with an old Ford 2-row corn planter, 30-inch rows. It's not precision agriculture. You look out here and behind me, you're going to see a ton of misses. I don't get too worried about that, just for the fact that that's just going to help my interseed mix. A lot of the ag guys out there that are doing this for their cattle, you'll see them do 60-inch corn rows instead of 30, and then interseed. And what that does, obviously, is allows the interseed mix to have a little bit more sunlight. And yes, it's 100% going to do better at that point in time, just because of, again, it's not fighting for sunlight. So why didn't we do that? Well, mainly just because we have a 30-inch row planter. Not only that, because of these sporadic misses in and throughout here, there is spots in here that are going to receive a lot more sunlight. And again, our interseed mix is going to do great. We've got another field behind us with quite a bit of corn in it. And the crows, the geese, have just absolutely detrimented that field. They've gotten plucked a lot of the stalks and eaten them before they reached maturity and had a good grasp on the soil. Again, I'm not too worried about that. We went in and interseeded it. It's going to receive a lot of good sunlight, and it's going to do fine. And really, I'm just making sure that I'm utilizing every square inch of food plot space that I have to make sure the deer have the highest quality nutrients, the highest quality forage going into the fall and winter months. One thing that a lot of you guys are going to be concerned about, and it's something that we've been concerned about too, because it's just right now in the middle of June and we've already interseeded some brassicas. A lot of times, especially in central New York, you're not going to seed your brassicas until late July, early August. The reasoning for that is because now that we've planted it early, they're going to have a lot more time to mature, reach full maturity, and actually start decaying before season comes around. So that's just something we're going to keep an eye on as the season progresses here. But back to, those other crops that are in that interseed mix. I've got that crimson clover. I've got those cowpeas. I got chicory that's going to last into the season. So I'm not too worried about those brassicas. It's just something we're going to pay attention to, see how bad they turn out. But if you guys want to mess around with that, there is options you can do to have that interseeding timing come a little bit later in the season. They have some corn varieties that mature a little bit quicker. And if you want to push it until, maybe you're planting your corn in the beginning of June rather than the middle of May. That's a couple weeks right there you can gain. And then at that point, the V3 stage would come a little bit later. Maybe that's in the middle of June rather than the beginning of June. So that's just something to think about and mess around with if that is one of your concerns. Just because of the other products in the interseed mix, that's not something we're too concerned about here on our property. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Whitetails of New York. Be sure to tune in to all of our episodes for more tips and tactics. I really hope this helped you guys out. At the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is optimize every single square inch of food plot space that we have. Especially those of you that are not planting a lot of acres, it's really important to make sure that you're utilizing every single inch that you can. Interseeding corn is going to do wonders for your property. It's going to define the movement. It's going to add more high quality forage and add that buffet that the deer are absolutely craving in your destination food sources. So if you've been doing it in the past, you've just been planting corn, I strongly encourage you to test this out. We'll keep you guys updated here in the future on our channel, and I expect here in a couple months, I expect this to be beautiful green, a lush green forage underneath these growing corn stalks. But again, I'm going to keep you guys posted on this, tell you what we've learned here in our first attempt at interseeding corn. Again, thank you for tuning into this episode. If you guys are interested in having us out to your property, feel free to give us a call for your free over the phone consultation to learn how we can help you. It's important to realize that you need a plan before starting any habitat improvements. Each habitat improvement that we're making on our property connects to another habitat improvement. We've got our destination food plots, our kill plots, our bedding areas, our travel corridors that connect everything. And we've already predetermined where our stand locations are going to be, blowing our wind in non-deer areas, how we're going to access each one of these things, and how we're not going to spook deer off of these destination food sources or really anywhere throughout the property. Making sure you have a plan before you go in and sporadically make habitat improvements, that's really going to make your property that much more successful and make you more successful this fall. So again, reach out if you're interested in having us out to your property. I look forward to speaking with you soon.